You may be using a planner to schedule out your to-do list, but listen to these common mistakes I see in entrepreneurs that you will want to avoid to achieve your goals. So when we set up New Year's resolutions or goals, it's very common to start a planner or a scheduler, start scheduling out our days, making sure we're following a to-do list, right? To make sure we're holding ourselves accountable to the progress and the results that we want to see, right? But I see so many common mistakes in entrepreneurs when it comes to their planning. And I will let you in on the secrets of all of those mistakes. So mistake number one, this is one of the things I see most common, and it's the best thing about it. It's the easiest one to fix. And it is not breaking down your to-do list in a more minute way, in a more detailed way. And I'll give you an example. So in our other business, we're wedding photographers and videographers, right? So something that I would used to do is, okay, our project is to send them their photo gallery, right? So that would be on the to-do list, So, okay, we captured the wedding, send them the gallery. But here's the thing. When I go to do that, send them a gallery, when you think about it, there's so many other things that I need to do before I can send them the gallery, right? Such as I need to cull the photos, which is rating them, essentially cleaning them out, which ones you want to trash, which one you want to use, which ones you want to edit, right? And then from that point, okay, then I need to actually edit them. And then from there, then I need to upload them onto our software. And then from there, I need to create the email to then send them the gallery. And I'm just big picture example. But that is a beautiful way of breaking it down. So before, our brain, when we go to look at the to-do list and it says, send them a full gallery, our brain's like, that's a lot of work. No, thank you, right? But if instead it just says, rate the photos. Okay, well, I know that's going to take me about 2 hours to do. I can do that, right? So our brain can easily see exactly what needs to get done. Something I always like to say to myself is, okay, what needs to get done to complete this thing? It should be just that one thing. If there's any prerequisites in order to achieve that thing, it needs to be broken out. Mistake number two that I see in planning and scheduling with entrepreneurs is not planning for future you. And what does this mean? When we schedule our week in advance, when you do hour one, which I posted a video on wherever, I don't know, go to my channel and you'll find it. Hour one scheduling, the ultimate how-to scheduler to perform your best and achieve all the things, right? When we are planning our week in advance, I see so often people assume that they're a freaking superhero and they can do all these things. But we're not planning for our future self, our future energy. And here's an example that I used is on Monday, we were out of state to work with a client all day, and we didn't get home till later in the evening. So that's a cue to me when I'm scheduling that next day to give myself some time to relax and just a break, because mentally I may need some more time to recharge, to wake up, right? Another example is a reminding yourself that things may take longer than you anticipated them to. But at the end of the day, it's planning for your future self in that moment, not what you think you can do then, but okay, if I know I had this type of week, how do I normally handle it? Or how have I handled it in the past? And then scheduling for that in advance. So this leads me into mistake number 3, which is overestimating what you can do in one day and underestimating what you can do in a year. What do I mean by this is we can say, oh, I'm going to do all these things, right? You have this huge ass to-do list, and when it comes time to it, you achieve 3 out of the 10 things. And we put shame on ourselves. We're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this? I should have done this. And then generally we end up quitting, or we quietly quit, or like, it's just not for me. It was challenging. So probably a sign from the universe that I shouldn't do it, right? Or maybe you're just overscheduling yourself, right? And then on the other part of it is underestimating what you can do in a year. Is we think, oh, well, I'll put this goal out there, but I don't know if I can do that, right? I don't know how I'm going to get there. And this is my reminder to you, is just focus on the little bits, that step by step, and I guarantee you can achieve it. And additionally to that is all these little steps you do, these incremental things, it all adds up. And I think that's the part that we always forget about. So an easy example that I want to use is working out, right? Is when we are, let's say, doing a deadlift, okay? And you're like used to doing a 100-pound deadlift, and you're like, oh geez, my goal is 250. How am I ever going to get there, right? And it's easy to think of that as, oh my gosh, why do I have to keep doing this over and over again? All I can get to is a 100-pound deadlift. But here's the thing. Think about an entire year's worth of time. The more you do it, the stronger you'll get, and then eventually you'll be able to get to that heavier weight. What if you didn't have a deadline to the task, to that result that you're looking for? Would you still be going after that result? Or even question yourself, why is there a specific timeline to that goal? Why do you have to achieve that goal at a specific time? Most of the time when we have a very hard deadline, aside from like obviously projects and stuff like that, but like think of longer term goals, when we put a deadline to it, a lot of it's from our ego that's creating this why we need to have this result, right? It'll make us feel better, it'll make us feel happier. But remember that at the end of the day, when you underestimate what you can do in a year, you are limiting yourself and you're playing small. So don't do that mistake. Another mistake that I see is that there's no accountability or responsibility taken. And how this can look is simply you look at your to-do list each day and you're like, I don't really want to do any of it. And sometimes there are moments and seasons in life, and maybe even just days or hours, where you do need to back off in order to not have this feeling of burnout, like you're pushing yourself too much. Then yeah, maybe you do need a day off. But most of the time speaking, that you need to hold yourself accountable. And through that, you essentially have the ownership of your results. So if you're not getting there, it's on you. If you are getting there, it's also on you. Generally what I see is when there is no accountability, no ownership, they essentially blame their results or lack thereof on external factors. Oh, well, this thing happened in the world, or this person handled the situation different than I anticipated, or this thing happened. I don't know, whatever that is. But when we take 100% ownership and accountability for ourselves, then we're in full control. And I think that's what a lot of people seek, is that control. They like to know that everything's in their hands, and yet they take action that pushes them away from that. So I kind of spoke into this a little bit, but another mistake that I see is unaligned action, or an unaligned to-do list item, however you want to call it. So it's essentially when we have something on our to-do list, and sometimes we feel this like, I don't want to do that. Sometimes it's us avoiding, buffering, or, pushing it away, right? Other times it's like we are needing a break, to rest and to avoid burnout. But another thing that it could be is it's unaligned. And generally the case, when you set aligned goals, and I have a whole YouTube video saga on setting aligned goals. So feel free to check those out if you don't know what I'm meaning by that, to get an inside scoop on that. But when you set aligned goals, generally all of your actions following are in alignment. But where I see this happen most is they're not setting aligned goals, or they get toward the end of the year or further along in the progress toward that goal, and they realize that goal is no longer in alignment. And sometimes what that looks like is just a recalibration of that goal. And I'll give you an example is I last year had a weight goal. Okay, well, I want to weigh X amount of pounds, right? As part of my weight goal. But then as we progressed throughout the year, I kept plateauing. And I'm like, what is going on? And that is when my coach, of course, said, well, hey, muscle weighs more than fat, and you're just in this transition time. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So for me to keep focusing on the scale was no longer in alignment with me. So what did I do? I pivoted, I recalibrated to changing that goal to body fat percentage. So I know how much fat's in my body, how much muscle's in my body, how much bones are in my body. What if you want to be specific, right? But that now I have this, through that recalibration, a better relationship with that goal, because I know it's still in alignment. It's still where I'm wanting to go. And I'm not like holding myself back or hindering myself by having that unaligned goal. The last mistake that I see is failure to learn from past experiences. And this is something that, to be honest, truthfully, with the help of a coach, you can really work through. And it's so simple, but sometimes we just don't see it in ourselves. A lot of it is just finding patterns. And there will be things that come in our life that happen again and again and again. And most of the time we don't see it, right? Or sometimes we identify, oh, I'm just someone who's always late, or, oh, I'm just someone who is an overeater, or, oh, I'm just someone who doesn't go to the gym, or, oh, I'm just someone who has to always reply to my clients as soon as I get their emails or their texts, right? What we can actually generally do is, when we learn from those past experiences, if you want to say failures, there's so much growth and learning potential from that. And an example, like earlier on when we were talking about like not breaking down a to-do list, like it's going through that process and realizing, oh, I didn't break down a to-do list, or, learning from that, or, oh, hey, this particular task actually takes me 2 hours to do instead of 1 hour like I normally plan. Like, learning from those experiences and then implementing that lesson is going to be paramount to your growth. So if you guys can avoid these mistakes that I see in planning and scheduling, you guys will be achieving your goals much more simpler, easily, all of the words. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys next week. Thanks.